Hi, in this video, I will show you how to do a normal probability problem using the table. You already know how to do it using technology. This lesson is about using the table. There will be three parts to it. Part one is when the question involves the standard normal distribution, Z. And part one is about when you're given the Z and you're asked for the probability. So it's like an introduction. Part two is what's usually called the inverse problem. And that is when you're given the probability or percent, and then you're asked to find the Z value. And one particular application of it is to find the critical value of Z with the subscript alpha. At the end of part two, I'll also show you how to remember which one is which between the regular problem and what do we look up on the table versus an inverse problem and what do we look up in the table. And part three is the more general problem where you're given a general normal distribution with any mean, any standard deviation, and how to do that. Basically, then you compute Z out of it, and then you do it like in part one and two. All right, so let's get started with part one. All right, so part one, find the probability given Z. All right, so first of all, reminder that Z is shorthand for standard normal distribution. And for the standard normal distribution, the mean is equal to 0 and the standard deviation is equal to 1. Now the table, it gives you the area to the left of the Z score only. It's always to the left, meaning probability that Z is less than a particular value. It gives you the probability that Z is less than a certain number. So in the table, and there will be two parts, there are two pages to the table, one for when Z is negative and one for when Z is positive, because they don't all fit on one page. The Z values are on the edges, okay? And it's actually on both edges, whereas the probability that Z is less than whatever number on the edge is given in the body of the table. So that's similar to a diagram where you have the Z values are on the edge of the diagram, and the probability is in the body of the graph. All right, so let's take an example. Let's say that you're asked to find the probability of Z is less than or equal to negative 2.84. And remember, we went through this, that for a continuous distribution, it doesn't really matter if the symbol is just less than or equal, because the probability of actually being equal to negative 2.84 exactly is 0. So anyway, so let's say you're given the probability that Z is less than negative 2.84. 2.84, you don't have 2.84, but you do have 2.8. And this is actually how the table breaks it up. Negative 2.84 is broken up right here. And you go look for negative 2.8 down the different rows, and then you go for the 0.04 here. So the answer is right here. At 0.0023, so the answer to this is equal to 0.0023. Okay, so yeah, the trick to this is you have a number, a Z value, and this table only gives you the 2 decimals, and that's fine. You round it to 2 decimals, then you break it up. The last decimal goes separate, and then the first decimal goes separate. So the last decimal goes here in the column, and the rest of number is down the different rows. Okay. All right, now next example. What if we want it the other way around? Because, you know, people ask us all kinds of questions if they don't ask less than all the time. So for example, if they want to know the probability that z is greater than some number, for example, z is greater than negative 3.17, then what are we going to do? Well, we're going to draw the diagram, right? For these things, always draw the diagram. So we draw a diagram for something greater than. So negative 3.17 would be over here. And this is the probability we're being asked for. Well, the table doesn't give us the area to the right. The table gives us the area to the left. The table gives us this area. Well, how do we get to the question mark? Well, the whole thing is 100%. So the probability, this area, the right area, is equal to 1 minus the left area. So we look up whatever is in the table, and we take 1 minus that. So we look up whatever is in the table. We look up negative 1.7, and again, we break this in here. And the 7 is here, and the negative 3.1 is here. So that gets us to this number. Okay. So the left side is 0.0008. So the answer for this is 1 minus the left side. That's 0.9992. Right? So that's how you do the right side. So the rule is right area equals 1 minus the left area. So the probability that z is greater than something is equal to 1 minus the value in the table. Okay. This probably greater than is this blue here, and the table is the white area. So we need to take 1 minus the value in the table. All right, what if we want the probability between two numbers? For example, probability that x is between negative 3.14 and 0.43. Okay, and the first thing we always do when we have these normal problems is to draw the graph, draw the normal diagram. Okay. So when we draw, we get a diagram like this. And over here is negative 3.24. And over here is 0.43. And we asked for this area. And the way we do it is this. The table always gives us the area to the left. So let's take a look at the area to the left and see what it looks like. So we have an area for negative 0.24 is this area to the left. So this is the area in the table. Okay. For 0.43, this is the area to the left. And the question mark is in between them. So that means we can just take the big area minus the small area to get the area in between. Yeah. So the question mark between is going to be the big area minus the small area. So we find the area to the left of 0.43, and we find the area to the left of negative 3.24, and there it is. So, and we subtract, yeah. So let's go. I forgot the number. Negative 3.24. So negative 3.24, and again, I break it up here. So I get negative 3.24, and that gets me 0.0006. and the other number is 0.43, and 0.4 is here. Again, 0.43, I break it up here, 0.43. I get this number. Right, so it's 0.6664 minus 0.0006. This here is 0.6664. Let me double check my numbers. Yep. And this here is 0.0006. So this part in between is going to be the difference, and that's 0.6658. Okay. So the probability between those two numbers, we get it by subtracting the two areas. Okay. So the rule is to subtract the two areas. So in between, in a way, is actually not that big a deal. Okay. So in summary, if you have a question that asks for the probability that z is less than some number, just find in the table, okay? Because it's this one. If you will look for something to the left of a number, that's the table. Okay? If you're looking for the probability that z is greater than some number, the table is over here to the left, so you have to go 1 minus the table. And when you have in between, then you go this table minus that table. All right, so that's the end of part 1. And go on to part 2.